Praise the galaxy, because the first ever Star Wars live action show has arrived, The Mandalorian. We're breaking down Chapter 1 right now, so don't go away.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz...
We made it! We made it! The wait is finally over. The Mandalorian has arrived. I have my number one draft picks in the house right now to break down this show on AfterBuzz TV every week. So before we dive into the episode, I will start with myself. I'm Steph Sabraw, aka Master Sabraw, aka Chewbacca's daughter. So excited to be here.
Yes.
And let me preface by throughout each episode, you'll get to know more about us and our love for Star Wars, our characters, our movies. And to my left is Rilo Ren, Ryan Nilsen.
The force is strong with this panel. We have all got matching sweatshirts, y'all.
Yes.
The Mandalorian is out. We have waited years for this.
Star Wars gang. And to his left, Grand Admiral Xia.
Hey!
Xia Anderson in the building.
Hi, you guys. I'm so excited to nerd out about this. I don't have that many people I can talk to about it. So the fact that you're all here is like, I'm so pumped.
Xia is, I'm about to introduce to her left. This is our Marvel panel.
Marvel.
So they know all things Marvel, but they are also massive Star Wars fans like Ryan and I. Grand Moff Christian Bladt.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I was born a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and I've loved Star Wars my whole life. I've liked Star Wars for years longer than I liked Marvel. I will tell you that right now.
Wow.
That's
Like
what's
6 years
cool about this
before.
panel. We
Yeah.
have a generational Star Wars fan base right
Yes.
now. We are all part of kind of a different subgroup of fans. But we've all arrived at the same time to be talking about this live action show. So what a day to celebrate. And we will be covering it on
Yes.
Fridays, starting this Friday, because that's when the next episodes will be appearing. So today is our special day with episode 1, chapter 1. So how we'll do it is we'll break it down. Zia's going to introduce some of our characters. We'll talk about it, and then we'll go into the plot from there, what happened, that big reveal at the end. So Ryan will present our special segment.
Yes, your Carbon-iiiight moment of the episode.
And we want you guys to participate in that. So give them a little taste of what that is.
Carbon-iiiight moment is that moment in the episode where you were just like, I am all in. This is it. Star Wars. What gave you that feeling that you're back in a galaxy far, far away? What gave you that feeling that, wow, we are watching new Star Wars content and I am all in on this show? What was your Carbon-iiiight moment?
Yes, and then Xia will be sharing our news and gossip, which each week it will be juicy because Star Wars is just loading up right now.
Yeah.
We have so much exciting news in the Star Wars galaxy. And then Christian will be our man in the live chat.
I'm manning the communications, and there's a few familiar faces in there. Eric Opperman, Monica Edwards, a few other people. So hi
Eric.
everyone, and let us know what you thought of the episode. And also, did you have trouble logging in? Because some people did too.
Yeah,
So
I
let
had
us
to-
know if you had trouble watching and how long it took. I had no problem. Apparently,
had to
I know how to
try-
use my technology.
Well, hey. Mine was not playing in my first one. I had to log in on my Xbox to get it to work. And then it didn't work the first time, and then it worked the second time.
You have an Xbox?
I have 2 Xboxes.
She's a gamer.
Girls
Wow.
play games too,
Yeah.
Ryan. It's 2019.
Well, I mean, that was interesting because this was the big unveil. It wasn't just The Mandalorian. It was also Disney+. Plus.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of exciting things about what happened last night and an earlier release than what we thought. But Christian, if you're listening to us, you can find us on live on YouTube right now or on Fridays at 12
At
noon.
at
Yeah,
Pacific.
Fridays at
12
noon.
o'clock.
PST. So overall thoughts, starting with Ryan.
Oh my goodness, y'all. I was so excited when this episode came out. First of all, we were told all week, oh, it's gonna be 3 a.m. Yeah, you're gonna need to wake up. You're gonna need to watch it after you go to sleep. Yada, yada, yada. This thing dropped at 11 p.m.
I was
PST.
wide awake.
Wide awake.
OMG.
And I was like, oh, maybe I should sign into our AfterBuzz account. Nah, I bought it. Went right in. A 7-day free trial that I know it's going to automatically renew. Yeah, whatever. I was so excited to see this. This is what we've been waiting for ever since Disney bought Lucasfilm. It's the heyday of TV, and we finally have a live-action Star Wars show. I mean, there were moments in this episode that reminded me why I think Star Wars is so cool, why it's so magical, and just what the thrill of watching a new Star Wars content in general, that we got it all in this episode, and I cannot wait for the next ones.
Zia.
Yeah, I was really excited. It's one of those where weird things make me emotional. As Christian, other people know, not normal things do. Like, I'm kind of dead inside. But, like, when, like...
No soul.
The cutest person ever is kind of dead inside.
Kind of, but like weird things like the opening when you hear the Harry Potter music, I get a little bit choked up. And it was the same with watching this when it like flashed on the screen. I was like, oh. So I got I got a little bit emotional when it first started. But overall thoughts, I loved it. I think they did such a good job of staying true to Star Wars and also kind of building this new world with these new characters where like I can't wait to see what happens, but I love the feel of it and I like that we got like a little bit of comedy in there. And a lot of drama and really good action sequences. I was so impressed with the fight scenes. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah. Loved it.
I'll say that for me, that was kind of the exciting thing is that, look, we know that on Disney Plus, the original content, they're going to spend a lot of money. We knew that. But to actually see the show and have it be like cinema quality effects and, all of that, if they cut any corners, it'd be like, oh, it feels like Star Wars, sort of. Because Star Wars has always been on the big screen where animated.
Right.
So if the first time it's on TV live action, at least in terms of a series, because there were 2 Ewok TV movies, but which I loved, by the way, because I was 9. But to have, like, if IG-11 didn't look cool, you'd be like, oh, I wish he didn't move. Any of the things that happened, if it didn't look good. So the fact that, like, right away, from the first, like, actual, like, not even huge fight scene, just a little skirmish, I'm like, all right, yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like. This is actually Star Wars, which you never really know what you're going to get,
So true.
So I was very excited right away.
With Star Wars and things like Game of Thrones, if they don't go all in production, it is so, like, the fans we won't have it. And for me, we will riot. But for me, I was like, dang, they did it. They really did it already in the first episode. I'm so excited to see what they do because we already got these sequences that we'll get into more in depth, but were amazing to me. And it's exactly what I'm signing up for. So I want to take us through the characters. The Mandalorian takes place after the Empire has fallen in Return of the Jedi, but well before the rise of the First Order in The Force Awakens. So Xia, you have kind of our introduction to our main characters so far.
So this is, and just characters also that we just sort of seen in this episode, like one already gets frozen in Carbon-iiiight, and that's awesome. the bounty. That's the blue guy. That's played by Horatio Sanz, who's a really funny comedian. If you guys don't know who he is, he's hilarious.
He was on SNL for years, and he's great in this, but he's also just in general very funny. Yeah,
and they did a great job because if I didn't know that was Horatio Sanz, I wouldn't have known that it was him. But he added that comedic element because that character, I don't know what he did, even though it turns out later he probably didn't do much that bad, but like you can't help but feel terrible for this guy. You're like, I feel so bad for him. And then we had Dr. Pershing. We were introduced to him as well. That's played by and I hope I'm sure I'm gonna butcher this, Omid Abtahi. And then, of course, Pedro Pascal is the Mandalorian, which they also call the Mando in the beginning scenes. Taika Waititi is IG-11.
Wow.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
What a great voice, too.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, he's in the Avenger movies, and I think he's just on a roll right now. What a perfect role for him.
Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit. The dude's on fire, and he actually directed an episode later this season, so I'm excited to see that, too. He crushed it.
And it makes sense that he would be the funniest character in the whole show.
Yeah.
I love what they do with droids.
Yeah, I agree.
They always provide, that's the comedic element that I look for is with the droids, not as much as the bounty. I was more entertained by him.
Well, and what they do with the droids is so great because they always have their own unique personalities, and you're just like, oh, I just love each one so much.
Oh my god, can we just talk IG-11 real quick? Yeah. Because the self-destruct
that's what I was referencing.
Was so funny, and all 3 times he's like, no, don't self-destruct, don't do it, and just like offering new solutions and complying. I thought that was such a fantastic.
It's like living with anxiety. Like he's a unicorn. We're like constantly like, should we self-destruct?
Exactly. Yeah. It
right
was
now it's happening.
It was a great way.
Like, calm down.
Star Wars is so cool because you could have characters like that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. IG-11 was hilarious. That whole part made me laugh. That and then the bounty in the beginning, so great. And then we had Carl Weathers who plays Grief Karga, if I'm saying that right.
Sorry.
They did reference his name.
Yeah, they did. I said that right.
Was freaking out.
Right?
When Apollo Creed is in Star Wars. They also have the composer from the Creed movies doing the music.
Really?
For
I didn't realize that's who that was.
So they had a lot of cool Rocky ties throughout. I love his character. So I guess he's the guy that Mandalorian is going to be going to get these bounties and to get all
for the big bucks.
The big bucks moving forward. So that's a really cool connect that they have, and I hope he pops up like throughout the entire series.
Me too.
Guessing he will. I'm hoping he will. And then we had the client, which is who our buddy Grief Karga sent him to.
Right.
And he's played by Werner Herzog, who is, I guess he's a German actor and producer, and he's very big in that world. But I think, what is it, Jack Ryan? That it sort of was like when he was well known in the States.
He's huge. He's
very big. But I think that was like the first big I keep saying U.S. thing, but yeah. And then, am I missing anyone? I know we're gonna have Gina Carano, but she wasn't in this episode.
Right.
So
No Gina.
not for this one.
Speaking of
Nick Nolte. Sorry.
No.
Oh,
yeah. That's the one we should not forget.
How could I forget?
Should not.
Quill?
I have spoken.
Yes.
We've
Let's
all
just call him
spoken,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that character. Before I get too ahead of myself, and how I will be using that line anytime anyone tries to give me any sort of shit. Let's just talk about the beginning scenes and kind of leading up to that point. What did you guys think about the introduction to Mando? Are we all in on him? Because I think he is the only person who could play the Mandalorian.
Yes. Can I just talk about how much I loved when he cut the guy in half with the door?
Go off. Go off, Xia.
It was so amazing because I was waiting. He's standing there, and the guy's, obviously trying to start shit with
You
him.
spilled my drink.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting. I'm like, oh, he's gonna crack some skulls. Like, this is gonna happen right now, and I'm just waiting for it. And it did not disappoint. That was such an amazing fight sequence. I'm already in on the choreography. That was amazing.
That was so cool. That might have been the most gritty we've seen Star Wars go quite yet, where they cut a guy in half, not by lightsaber, but by a closing door, which I thought was so awesome. And it was a squid guy you don't really care about.
Exactly.
And
How dare you?
He was a bad guy.
I was almost thinking
think.
that maybe like the other squid part of his body was going to start walking, but no, he's dead. He's straight up gone. And I just thought that was such an awesome opening, classic Western intro to a character.
What I love about that sequence, we were talking just before the show, is there's so much of the different worlds you go to, the literal planets they go to, that are shaped by really just the first act of A New Hope. Like the first Star Wars movie, like cantinas always kind of look like that. The streets always look like that. You have land speeders, but it's always that gritty, lived-in, just dirty world. And as much as I love Star Trek is always like, well, look how clean it is. Mm-hmm. It's a future where everybody washes everything. And Star Wars is like, we don't got time to wash this, all right? We're running for our lives.
We have a class system here.
Yeah, right. And I like that. Exactly. If somebody's going to clean it, they're probably blue. But I love, and I just love the way it looked. So even really before any action started, I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to see what this guy does. But The Mandalorian, I hope he never takes his helmet off. I love that armor so much. Well, I'm sure that'd be good for story, but he just looks so cool. And you know what? Season 2, let him take the helmet off. But I mean, look, Boba Fett is barely in the original trilogy, and he's definitely one of the most popular characters. Yeah. And so when you see
a good life to live.
Yeah, when you see Mandalorian armor, you're just like, oh, this guy's such a badass. And to actually just see them in action, I think it's great.
Let's talk about because we got a little insight to Mando and we got a little backdrop of what his upbringing was like, and during that scene where he gets Beskar, which is a type of metal that only the Mandalorians use, and we find out that he was a foundling, and during the time where the Clone Wars, his family and him were separated. What did you guys think? Do you guys want a little bit more backstory with him, or was that enough?
I thought really cool sequence. Really fantastically well edited. We don't get flashbacks in Star Wars that often, unless it's a forced flashback. So I just thought that it was really this show kind of establishing its way, its style a little bit. I really like that. Plus, just adding on that there's another Mandalorian who has this badass armor helmet. Yeah. I forget. I think that was a woman, and she looked like a knight in some way.
Yeah, that was very cool.
I thought that could have been Gina for a second.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Possible.
It might, maybe.
She wasn't in the credits, so I don't think that was.
Oh,
just
good point.
Crafting
Yeah,
it, like, and the fact that this little space rock Imperial emblem symbol thing, you can melt it and turn that into part of your armor. Like, I wonder if that's how they make all their armor. That's how he might have gotten his mask. That's how he got the shoulder pad.
Sure.
It looked so cool, and I just thought that was so fascinating because we're watching that be crafted while also getting insight on his backstory. It was a great
emotional scene. Was that a crier for you?
No.
Okay. For me, I kind of was like, whoa.
You were
No,
shook.
it was really good though, and I like that it in a way humanized him, because mostly you're just seeing him as this badass bounty hunter, and he doesn't really show much emotion. Except for in small moments, which I really enjoyed when they were talking about how it was a generous contribution because he was going to give the rest of it. He was donating the rest of the steel or the metal that they used to make his piece, and it was going to change. My brain is completely forgetting what they were called.
The Mandalorians?
No,
the Foundlings?
Foundlings, thank
Yeah.
you. I kept wanting to say like Yardlings.
The younglings, R.I.P.
younglings.
Never forget.
Hashtag too soon on the young ones.
But it was going to go towards the Foundlings,
But I mean, also he's like trying to give money to the Nick Nolte character, who let's just call Nick Nolte.
You're right.
And he's just like, no, I don't want your money. And he's like, come on, you earned it. You know what I mean? And I think it at least shows you that he's a bounty hunter. Sure, he's motivated by money, but he's also fair and just in the way he sees the world. And not to jump all the way to the end, but there is a defining moment in that scene where you're like, okay, I know everything I need to know about this guy by the way he handled that.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, even just leading up to it, it humanizes him in a way that you're like, oh, this is a character that I can identify with or that I can get behind. It's not like they want you to root for this character, and they're
I'm so
doing
behind him.
Yes, and they're
I
doing a great
think
job.
this was written and directed by Jon Favreau.
Directed by, I think it was directed by
he-
Dave.
He wrote this
Filoni.
one.
He did write it,
written
yeah.
by Jon Favreau. Sorry, my mistake. But I want to talk about the writing of this episode because not only was it
Dave Filoni is the other executive producer. He directed it.
Thank you. It's important because they did such a great job, and I'm excited to see what each of them do. But just the writing of this episode was so great. I mean, it was only about 37 minutes, I believe, but we are so behind The Mandalorian already, and the dialogue was written in such a way that we got a lot of information, but there was also some great Star Wars one-liners. That's what I wait for. So I love that. But let's talk about his interactions moving forward, and we get to see that the big money bounty with the Veskar, and that he's saying that there's a bunch of that waiting for him. What did you think about?
He gives him those details too, where he goes, "It's a 50-year-old." That's what you're referring to, right?
Yeah,
he's
that
like,
scene.
50-year-old. You know what a 50-year-old looks like, and also here's the last coordinates, the last known coordinates.
And we have like the last 4 digits. So it's like, I'm helping you a little bit, but not that much. But, you're supposed to be that good and you're really expensive, so this should really be easy for you. I thought that was great, the way that he's kind of putting him on task of like, look, I'm giving you a lot of money, you better find this thing, So, I thought that was interesting.
That was a moment I felt in the episode where the show was really finding its footing, where, this is the first live-action Star Wars show. And like you mentioned, so Dave Filoni, he's George Lucas's apprentice. He did all the animated shows. So I thought really cool they got him to direct this pilot and really establish the tone. And you could just tell there's so much attention to detail. And with that sequence, you could really tell this is the story they're going off to tell. We're going to watch this guy follow these bounties and follow the story from there. So I really thought that was interesting, and immediately it has you as a viewer asking a question like, okay, who's this person going to be? We know they're building up to something. What is this thing going to be at the very end?
And all the stormtroopers surrounding him. What a scene.
And I actually talk about one-liners and quotes. I wrote down this quote because I loved it so much. They were like, we have you 4-1. He goes, I like those odds.
Confidence,
I also
baby.
wrote that down. I love that. Also, like 4 stormtroopers, that's really like one guy. Come on. We've seen enough
They're
Star
not
Wars.
going to hit you.
But what's cool about that is so the Empire is done.
Yeah.
But it looks like the stormtroopers are still for hire.
Well, see, that's, I think, a little bit of what's going on sort of in the interim. If you go back, and I read a little bit of it. This is coming from like some books and stuff but I haven't read them all. So just in the little bit that I've looked up, there are still out there trying to sort of work their magic and like establish I don't know if like a reach again. They're not completely gone. They're
Empire.
still they're still
Never.
like it's
Well, I mean, look, the fact that however many years, whatever it is, 25, 30 years later, you have the rise of the First Order means that they didn't go away entirely. It's just they're not centralized like that. Yeah, I think a lot of it, like if you're a stormtrooper, you have that armor and you're like, well, I got to make money, so I'll certainly be, a bodyguard for hire,
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if I read this specifically, but I think that this is about 5 years after Return of the
5
Jedi.
years,
I thought I had read that somewhere.
Right.
So that's enough time where, you're like, it's going to be hard times, so you got to try and figure out how to put food on the table. So
that's true. They're people kind of too.
I mean, in there, there's
They are,
people in
yeah,
there.
there
We have
are.
established
Yeah.
that they're not the clone troopers. They're,
Yeah, that's true. You're right. They're real people.
Before we get into the next part of the quest, I do want to shout you guys out. Watching right now, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button. Leave us a comment. We want to keep the conversation going. Obviously, we're a bunch of nerds, so Star Wars talk never ends. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, give us those 5 stars. Leave us a review there because we also like to talk with you there. But we really appreciate you joining our Star Wars After Show Club.
And let me just, since we're shouting out the people there in the chat, Eric Opperman mentions that it did take him about an hour to get The Mandalorian going on Disney Plus. Everything else worked, but he couldn't get the show to work, which is what you ran into.
Yeah.
But he also agrees that he is glad that it actually looked like a Star Wars movie. So
Yeah.
So let's talk about the next part of his. So once he leaves and he gets some direction of the big bounty that he's chasing, it seems like he lands in Tatooine, but there's some theories that I read that he might be in Ryloth, and that's where the beasts, those beasts attack that are called blurgs. Those are really cool, and they have a great backstory. They're all females, and they kill the males during mating. Love to hear it. Love to see it.
Males are gone.
Yeah, tadpole. Giant tadpole people. Really cool to see a new Star Wars monster on screen. And for, I think, a more layman fan, that sequence might have been a little slow, but I was just like, oh, there's new Star Wars animals. Like, how awesome is this?
Yeah, when he's first looking through that little telescope, I thought they were the dewbacks that are on Tatooine in A New Hope. And then when you see them up close, like, oh, no, that's something different. They look similar, but these are like smaller and much more well-defined in that we know about their mating habits, apparently.
Yeah. I also, go ahead.
No,
sorry.
go, Xia.
I was going to say, I also really enjoyed the sequence of him learning how to ride it.
Was that a
Yes.
tearjerker? Because that was another one for me where I'm like, oh my god, am I watching Seabiscuit? Like, I love this. A little bonding happening.
Yes, and it shows that he's not amazing. He can still learn things. He's not amazing at everything yet. He's obviously never seen a blurg. Well, not never seen a blurg before, but he's definitely never ridden one.
Right.
So that was really, again, another way of humanizing him. I just love the way that they're sneaking those little moments in.
For not being able to see his face and us being able to humanize with him is incredible. How does that even happen? But
And it was great in that sequence how what's the Nick Nolte character's name now?
Nick
I feel
Nolte.
stupid. I feel stupid calling it.
Quill?
Okay.
It's
So Nick Nolte,
K-U-I-L-L.
and he's just like, you're a Mandalorian. Your ancestors
Mandalorian.
rode. I think he said the Great Mythosaur. I might
Yes,
be wrong.
he did. He said Mythosaur.
And so he's like, oh god, this guy just totally called me out. All right, let me get back up there. So I thought that was good to see because he's like, how about a speeder bike, land speed, something? Why do I have to ride one of these things? So I thought it was cool that he kind of called out his heritage. His
even
proud
more background
Mandalorian
of him.
heritage, yeah.
But what was an interesting line he had too was that I guess other bounty hunters had been through there and they're just causing trouble. So he gave a reason to why he's helping. He wasn't helping for no reason, which I feel like in a lot of old time westerns that sometimes happens with the protagonist. It's just like this guy that comes along. He's like, "Oh, I'll help you." But so I thought that was a really. I have spoken. And yeah, he doesn't like take the payment. It was just I thought it was a really great scene, and like you said, it helped humanize the Mandalorian.
Yeah, he just wants peace. He's like, I need to get these people out, or these, whatever they're out of here because there's just too much war.
Is
causing all this strife.
So let's talk about this scene because, whoa, IG-11 and Mando team up, and I love when he sees IG-11, he's like, oh, droid.
Yeah,
because he clearly doesn't like droids.
Yeah.
Because the same thing happened when the speeder came along. He goes, no droids. And he instead gets in the, broken down almost, clunky, crappy speeder because it's piloted by a human.
Piloted by comedian Brian Posehn, which was a nice little cameo to see in there.
Was it?
That was him driving the
And he
speeder.
tweeted about it today.
That was great. Yeah.
And then he got eaten.
Oh yeah, watch
happens.
out! Watch the ice.
It happens.
Yeah, that
That's
happened. But that scene was awesome. I mean, IG-11 was taking people out, and he didn't even give them a time to answer. He's like, I need this right now, and then there was no right now was right now. There was no countdown.
Right. And he's obviously, the same, I don't know, not species, but the same design as the well-known bounty hunter from Empire Strikes Back, IG-88. But this is clearly a different character as we see it, as it goes along, but this is IG-11. So I always thought that was a really cool character. He never moved like this because he barely did anything. The bounty hunters in Empire Strikes Back mostly just stood around and looked super cool, but didn't actually do anything. Yeah. So to actually see that he spins in that way, I'm like, all the years that I had an IG-88 action figure, I never thought that maybe he might spin. I would have broken him if he did. But still, I never even thought that he might have moved like that. So it was really cool to see.
And the idea that he cannot be captured because they don't want to copy the design.
Yeah.
So the self-destruct, as funny as that was real.
Yeah.
In that if they get him, then you can just make their own IG-88s. That's how superior of a droid he is.
Yeah.
I thought that was so awesome. Again, we mentioned Taika earlier, did such a great job. And how they immediately formed this bond. He had some kind of badge where he says, I'm part of the
guild.
The guild.
Yeah.
So
Which
there's
just
a
makes
bounty
me
hunter.
think
The
of
Great
Boba.
point, right?
The Bondsman Guild is what he calls it.
Yeah.
You know, which obviously that's basically bounty hunters. You know,
And it kind of shows us with that self-destruct that we are at a time of serious unrest and almost like a wartime where people have to be worried about the type of technology they're using in their plans. So I do love that. But the scene that happens now is where I just go, all right, I'm all in. I'm all in when Mando comes out just blazing. What did
my
you,
God.
Zia, talk about it?
Sorry, just when he gets that massive gun that they bring out, and he's like, draw the fire, and I'm gonna go get it, and he has like a grappling hook, and he pulls it towards him and shoots, and he done. Everyone's dead. Everyone is dead. That was so amazing.
So awesome.
So badass.
that moment made me think, what if Frank Castle, the Punisher, got into some Mandalorian armor? He would have done exactly that. So, you know,
That's
I
actually a
really
great point.
appreciated that. That
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, everyone's dead now. Okay, let's go.
It was punishing.
Yeah.
Big time. What a great action sequence, too, in that they're like both totally at wit's end. They have them all cornered, and he just uses IG-11's skills. Hey, you can take a few shots, and I'm just going to get that cannon and really wreck shop.
Yeah.
Love that sequence to no end. And he also couldn't use part of the weapons he had on his arm because he got shooted earlier.
Yeah.
Mando
So-
checked in on him like a good bro would. Love that scene. And it's funny because I thought that would be kind of the end of the scene. We wouldn't get another rewarding moment that happened. And I was totally fine with that because it was such a rewarding scene. But then what followed is
my
kind of like
God.
the big kaboom, what people didn't even want to tweet about because they didn't want to give it up. And they are entering this room.
Paint the scene, Steph.
Yeah, I'm painting the scene. They enter this room. They see a little carriage and it has
After
an
they kill one more guy.
Yeah.
There's one more. There's always one more guy to kill.
silence, suspense is building. We see a little carriage with an Imperial logo, so we're getting a little bit of insight into what's happening.
What is that?
Then Mando comes in, is an ageist, and once they open the carriage, and he says, they said he'd be 50, and I was like, what's happening? And then IG-11 has to culture him and say, some species age differently, Mando, chill out.
They could
For
live
real.
for centuries.
And then, what do we get? A Yoda-like species that we still don't know what the name of the species is, but we just know that it's a baby Yoda and it's the most adorable thing that's ever hit the freaking earth.
So cute.
Can I adopt one of those as a baby? Can I
Oh
have?
my
I don't
gosh.
want a human baby.
Yeah, I want one of. I want one of those. They're so cute.
I have two kids. I've held them both when they're newborn. I don't know if they were cuter than Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda might be the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Ever.
I mean, look, for those of you on YouTube, right, look at those eyes.
I'm not trying to gas
Oh,
myself
no.
up right now. This is the first and only time I've been able to say this in a way that's not self-deprecating. My parents told me when I was born I looked like a mixture of Yoda and Winston Churchill. So if this is what I looked like, I will take that.
Were you chewing a cigar?
I don't know.
So
I was like
cute.
demanding and gross.
Going to need to see baby pictures of
But
you.
it's fine. It's also what he does after because IG-11's about to take it out.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the interesting point is that they clearly have different orders because they were very clear with Mando that it's like we really want it alive, but I'll give you half. If
The
you,
scientist
Yeah.
more wanted was
Yeah.
like, no,
the scientist
bring
is
him
like, no,
alive.
I need it alive. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting what they realized that they actually had a different objective. So somebody completely different hired IG-11, which I think earlier in the scene, the thinking was like, oh yeah, that would make sense. You hire two bounty hunters because you're not sure if one of them's going to get it done. So
Right.
I thought that was a really cool and surprising reveal.
The shot got me, by the way. When they zoom in on Mandalorian's face and you just hear a blaster shot, I was like,
Yeah.
oh! And then IG-11 falls.
Right.
Okay. But that's also interesting because if he's a part of this guild, that means he just killed a guild member.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So-
also didn't complete the bounty by choice, which is interesting. Like, I
mean,
wonder what the repercussions.
Bounty Hunter 101 is that you wouldn't do what he did.
Exactly.
And IG-11 didn't even get to do his self-destruct. So now he can make a whole army of them.
Or he
true.
might self-destruct him at the beginning of the next episode and
That's
make
true.
it look like
he self-destructed. That's a good point. If he doesn't do that,
I would. Yeah, it's smart.
Straight. That's
I
really smart.
hope Mando's watching right now.
Yeah,
before
Mando
Friday.
shoots to kill.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't. He's got it.
I was just gonna say with Yoda. I mean, all we know about Yoda in that species is that he was like 800, 900 years old when he was
900
training.
by Return of the Jedi, I think he says. Yeah.
Yeah, so we know this baby Yoda was made 10 to 15 years before episode 1 by him being 50 years old. That's what we
Right.
can kind of concur. But Ryan and I do a Star Wars news show every week, Thursdays 4 p.m. PST, and we actually broke down Yaddle, which is, or Yaddle, Yaddle or Yaddle. She's the only other species like Yoda that we've seen, and she's a female Yoda. And that was very, very brief in the prequels.
Yeah, in Phantom Menace. We've only seen Yoda and Yaddle on screen before for that species. We still don't have a name for Yoda's species. He goes the Dagobah to hide. I don't think that's where his species is from. So there's very little known. I think what we can infer from this episode is that it's a very rare species. For all we know, they could all be force sensitive because the other two that we've seen on screen are force sensitive.
That's like the big question. Yeah. Is this going to be related to the Force somehow? And I think also it's really interesting, too, that we're getting this because I've read some theories out there, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, we have no idea yet, but some theories that got me being like kind of excited that it could be Yoda and Yaddle's baby. I don't know if that works out timeline-wise, but I read it, and now I can't, unthink
When
it.
does Yoda have time for action?
Well, it would have been 50 years ago. And, he was hiding out 50 years ago. What are you going to do to pass the time?
I mean...
He seems like a pretty loyal Jedi.
I'm
That
pretty
wouldn't mess around.
That's true. We forgot the Jedi are like our priests in Italy.
Right.
Also, I was going to say, he's pretty feeble, but then again, you're thinking back to Attack of the Clones. The dude can turn in a snap.
You got to think of prequel Yoda and how spry he was and how he kind of fakes it a little bit. Yeah.
Also, do we know that they have sex to reproduce? Maybe they don't. Maybe they reproduce in a different way. We don't know anything.
Sidebar, I want the Jedis to be able to have relationships, but we'll get into that later.
So did Obi-Wan.
I'm with you, Steph.
Well, that wraps up our breakdown of this episode. Let's move to our special segment, right?
Carbon-iiiight moment of the
Love the way
episode.
you
Again,
say
this is
that.
the moment in the episode where we thought, okay, I'm all in. This show has had so much buildup. Disney's really putting a lot of eggs in this show's basket in that, hey, join Disney Plus because of The Mandalorian. And yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to watch this regardless. Even if it's not good, you're probably still going to watch it. So we're talking about what were the moments in this episode where you were like, okay, I'm in, for real. This is living up to the expectation. This means a lot, and they are doing it. I'll start real quick, which is with my moment. The moment for me came about 20 minutes into the episode. It was right after he spoke with Carl Weathers and Werner Herzog, and he goes into his Mandalorian hideout hut with all the other Mandalorians there. For me, right when he got in there and they started melting that space rock and putting on the armor, I was like, there is lore. There was a lot of thought put into this. This is awesome. And this is something that people, like you said, we know Jango Fett, Boba Fett, we know some Mandalorians from the Star Wars Rebel series. We are seeing just some incredible, bold choices from this show. And for me, when he puts on his new shoulder pad, I was like, let's go. I want to see this armor in action, non-piercing. And for me, that was my Carbon-iiiight moment.
Nice.
Awesome moment. Awesome.
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'm so easy to please. Mine was when the fight sequence in the cantina and he got cut in half by the door. That was really, I was like, cool, I'm in. I'm
2
gonna
minutes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It started out amazing and it just, I was all in.
Blatt.
Mine kind of jumps the gun because it's actually a newsworthy moment. I was so excited when Horatio Sands' character's name? Oh, just the
blue guy.
No, but it's he's just
he's the bounty. They just call him the bounty.
The bounty.
So when he's yammering and trying to get Mandalorian to let him go, he says, I hope I make it home in time for Life Day.
Oh!
And that's the craziest thing ever because I sent these pictures to Ryan. Sorry,
Jeff.
You're Ryan. I'm used to Ryan being in the booth. Jeff in the booth.
This is different.
Yeah, this is different having Ryan over here. And Life Day is what the Star Wars holiday special centers around. And the first picture there's an animated sequence in that special, which is the first appearance of Boba Fett. Before you see him in Empire Strikes Back, he's in the animated sequence. But if you go to the TV Guide ad is kind of the graphic that I like the most. And so the actual the Star Wars Holiday Special, Chewie's trying to get back to Kashyyyk for Life Day. You meet his family. And to me, this was always just the dirty little secret of Star Wars. And it's amazing, and we will definitely have to do a watch along at some point before Christmas.
A must.
And I could not believe that Life Day
is
canon. Because how could Life Day be canon? Because it's this piece of garbage, which I love, by the way, because it's so bad. The Wookiees are wearing red robes because they didn't want to actually dress a bunch of people in Wookiee suits.
And they've ignored
You can see Chewbacca right there. He's in a red robe. Why? Because it's cheaper than putting on the whole suit.
It's my daddy.
I think it was a Handmaid's Tale crossover too. So.
You know what? Great observation.
Yeah, that was what I thought. Yeah.
So I could not believe he said that in something that is obviously canon, like extended universe, like a comic book or a novel. Yeah, sure. But I couldn't believe that he said Life Day. So it's such a minor thing, but I was so excited.
That's all it takes sometimes.
Yeah.
There was actually that moment too it's just that it just made me laugh because I loved it so much when they had the Kowakian monkey lizards that one was being spit roasted, the other one was in a cage.
Oh.
It was
Salacious Crumb.
Salacious Crumb species.
Yes, and I was like, oh my god, and I had to pause it and go back.
I mean, the one watching the other one be spit roasted is just like this horrifying,
Yeah,
Really?
because he
So
knows
sad.
he's next. I started to feel empathy towards him. I was like,
but he did look delicious, so I would have loved to have eaten them both.
Okay, my Carbon-iiiight moment was, I kind of already dug into this, but it's that scene when Mando comes out and just slays everyone with their own weapons.
Like that cannon?
Yeah. I mean, that is so like, I'm not here to play. I can bring you in cold or I can bring you in warm.
I bring y'all in cold
That's
now.
a great line.
Yeah.
That's really good.
So that was mine. And now I'm really excited to get into our news and gossip brought to us by Xia.
Yes, we have, Christian actually sent me this one. There's one small one that I'll just get into before. The reason that we never saw any, early, not predictions.
Spoilers.
Thank you. Spoilers or any, my brain.
Teasers.
Thank you. Like teasers and basically people breaking down episodes like we're doing right now and reviews, early reviews is because they never sent out any screeners for this. This was the one, they did like a 30-minute extended sort of preview for some people, but no screeners were sent out. So you had to watch it on launch day, just like everybody else, even if you were someone that writes things up. Yeah, they really didn't want this to be spoiled.
Because it would have been.
It would have been, absolutely. Somebody would have said something on Twitter and you would have accidentally seen it. It's a really hard thing to miss. And then Christian sent me this one, which was actually really funny. So in an interview with Hollywood Reporter Werner Herzog, he has, first of all, never seen any of, they asked him what it was going to be like working with, my brain is...
John Favreau.
I can't remember anything
That's
right
why
now.
I'm here.
Thank you. John Favreau, he's never seen any of John Favreau's movies. And he's never seen any Star Wars movies.
Yikes.
So he basically just came into it and was like, yeah, I mean, I just think that this is going to be a good role. I'm going to do it. He had no idea what was going on. He doesn't really watch much TV or movies at all. He says he watches like 3 to 4 movies a year.
So it's not offensive. It's like, don't take this personal.
Yeah, no, he says that he mostly reads, Greek mythology, but like once a year he checks out WrestleMania just to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great.
Thank you, Grand Admiral Xia. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have, so we do have to get into predictions really quick.
AfterBuzz TV
Christian.
predictions.
Mando is going to kill everybody else next week. On Friday. He's like, he killed a bunch of people this week. Next week, everybody else is going. He's coming for you, Carl Weathers.
Ooh.
There you go.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, I don't know. I think that he's now going to go on a mission to protect our little baby Yoda, and he's going to be like Daddy Yoda for a little while.
How sweet was it with the little finger? He just touches it.
That was beautiful.
Mando's adorable.
The E.T. moment, really.
Yeah.
No, I predict that maybe the next few episodes is going to be him trying to deliver this young Yoda species being to safety and making sure that no one does anything to it because it just looks so innocent and frail. So I hope that's not the entire season, but if they really dive deep into that mythology, I'm in.
I know
Me
we're trying to
too.
wrap up. Do we know how many episodes this season is?
8.
It's
8.
A crazy 8. A crazy 8.
That's it.
I'm canceling
I
right
agree
now.
with you, Rye. If they dive deeper into his history and mythology of his character and species, I'm all in for them, that being the storyline of the 8 episodes. So with that being said, Christian, where can the fans find you until next week?
You can find
or
me
till
on-
Friday.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ, and you can find Xia and I Thursday over on the Popcorn Talk Network for Marvel movie news at 1 p.m. Pacific.
Love it.
And I'm Xia Anderson, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Xia_Land. It's spelled XIA. And also, Christian and I, myself, again, on Marvel News Daily, also on the Popcorn Talk, if you want quick Marvel news blurbs.
Talking all
We
about
gotcha.
Disney Plus
Yeah.
today. I'm paid up for 3 years.
There you go. And I'm Ryan Nilsen. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Nilsen, Nilsen. And Steph and I for the Star Wars News Show, 4 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays. Popcorn Talk.
I'm Steph Sabraw. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabraw, and what he said, 4 p.m. on Thursdays. Until next time, till next Friday.
Friday.
May the force
Oh my
be
God.
with
Friday
you.
at noon.
May the force be with you.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.